We're going to Puerto Rico, okay? And this is a little trip I did in the spring in March. And I visited this little recreation area, had a butterfly greenhouse in an area called Vega Baja. I'm going to start off just a couple quick things about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's settled by the Spaniards in the 1500s. This happens to be the oldest church in the Caribbean. San German is located, built in the late 1500s. It's a convent, and it's a very nice place to visit. Of course, Puerto Rico's known for all the beaches, and this is on the north side in Isla Verde, not far from the airport, actually. So it's pretty places. And when you go to the south, it's drastically different. On the south side, we have the mangrove forests and limestone type of topography. Shallow waters, much more calmer than the north. And there's some places I should mention. If you go to Puerto Rico, you want to see these, a few of these if possible. They're easy to find. They're all on the map. And hey, Phil, shut up. I can. Okay. What's going on with them anyway? The El Yunque rainforest, folks, is the Caribbean National Rainforest. Most people who visit Puerto Rico will hear about El Yunque and make a trip over there. It's east of San Juan. It's a lovely place. It's heavily visited and a very typical rainforest, right? More on the west side is the Maricao State Forest. Between the two of those is Toro Negro, which has the highest point in Puerto Rico. They're all interconnected with the smallest, narrowest roads you've ever seen in your life. And the rest of these are just all scattered around the whole island. The Sosua Serpentine Forest State Park is a very interesting place. It's sort of a dry forest. Guanica is right on the coast, on the south. In fact, the picture I showed you of the beach there was near the Guanica dry forest. Very different biome over there. The Cabo Rojo coastal salt flats, very nice place also. There's a good birding there. The Oaxaca karst forest, that's on the northwest side. It's all karst limestone along the northwest and going eastward all the way almost to San Juan is all karst. Not to San Juan, to Arecibo anyway, but at least halfway on the north coast. The Cartagena Lake and the Dos Bocas Lake, very nice places. And these other ones as well. There's more, like I said, there's like 24 of them. So you can't go wrong. Here's the map of Puerto Rico, and you can see the little green areas. This is, there's El Yunque very over way on the right-hand side. You can see El Yunque, and the other ones are located everywhere you see the green. See Maricao all the way on the west near Mayagüez. That's way back there. I grew up in this area, and I went to Maricao all the time, one of my favorite places. But I'm also very familiar with almost all of the places on the map here. Puerto Rico's a wonderful place to visit, and it's easy to get around. The dry forest looks like this pretty much. There's a great old bromeliad right in the middle and some other smaller ones around. It's also drier, so for some reason, I think the butterfly species are richer and more in number in the south in these dry areas, a lot more than in the north. You would think the rainforest would have a lot of butterflies, but it doesn't. Not anywhere near the way the dry forest does. Big bromeliad colonies. Orchid species, including these leafless vanilla orchids. I don't know how many people are aware that vanilla is actually an orchid plant. And the one that we use for cultivation is Vanilla planifolia. I was surprised to learn that there was 110 species worldwide in the genus of vanilla. I know of about 4 or 5 species at the most. And these are from what I found in Puerto Rico. Now, the one pictured here is leafless. It's called claviculata, vanilla claviculata. And it's extremely hard to find flowers, extremely hard. You can search all you want. It's very rare to see them in bloom. They do bloom, obviously, and even less frequent is finding a seed pod. Very hard. But they do, it obviously has to happen. And these guys, they call them worm vines. They just grow along through these dry zones and climb up the trees and all that. Very well adapted to this dry environment. Um, and they make pretty flowers too, with big green and white flowers. They're very pretty flowers when you see them. Now, here's one that you could see a little easier. Psichilus Kranzleenii, to be sure. Overall, there's 95 species of orchids in Puerto Rico, which is quite a lot for a small island. And this particular one is found in this dry zone where I happen to be. It's a very pretty orchid. And of course, Puerto Rico offers great birding opportunities, at least 284 documented species without counting the vagrants that come through. And some endemics, the Puerto Rican parrot, the Puerto Rican toady, and the woodpecker, endemic to Puerto Rico. Very beautiful birds. This is Falco sparverius, which I saw in the Guanica dry forest for a minute. It was hard to get a better picture because it was pretty far, but anyway, there you go. So I don't know if any of you folks in the audience have tried um, to do any birding in Puerto Rico. If any of you have been, maybe some people have, I don't know. You have?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. So we have a member in the audience, those of you on Zoom, is Professor Bernie Laurie is from UMBC, is visiting with us here tonight. And we're happy to have him here because we know that there's people at UMBC that like us now. So he actually has been to Puerto Rico and did some bird studies there, is what he's saying, right? Very cool. Yep. Well, we'll have to talk about that. Because tonight we're supposed to talk about butterflies, right? And as it is in Puerto Rico, we have 102 species of birds. Geez, butterflies. Get it right. Okay. Endemic. About 10 subspecies are endemic, and 5 species are endemic to Puerto Rico. But 102 species is pretty good for a small island because it's only 100 miles long by 35 miles wide. So I have a short list here of the different ones that exist. So Papilionidae are the swallowtails. There are 5 species in Puerto Rico. One of them is the Pelaus. And Nymphalids, 35. And I wrote the names down here of the ones that are the species and Atlantia, Atlantia tulita. Atlantia tulita, I will show you a picture of this butterfly. It looks like a checker spot, but it's spectacular. And it's only found in Puerto Rico. Interestingly, there's a species of Atlantia found in Jamaica and another one found in Hispaniola that are endemic to those islands. In addition, we have in Puerto Rico Adelpha jalania aricosa, which is the only Adelpha with tails. Adelpha is a large genus of South American and Central American butterflies, quite a lot of them, but only the one in Puerto Rico has tails. I'll show you a picture of that too. Anea troglodyta barrinquinalis and Eupichia hegesia watsoni are just a few. I'm just putting a few up here. Pieridae, 19 species. The little Eurema, they renamed it Pyristia portoricensis. That's the endemic species among the pierids, but there's other subspecies that are endemic. Phoebus argante is a Phoebus argante, I should say. Argante is a one that occurs all the way across the Caribbean into Florida, but the subspecies Martini is Puerto Rican. And the great white, the Ganyera josephina is Krugii, is Puerto Rican. Lycaenids, 16 species. Pseudochrysops bornei escobii is Puerto Rican. Hesperidae, the skippers, 27 species. 2 of these are endemic, the Caranthus borincona and Caranthus vitellius, although vitellius is also found in the Virgin Islands, but pretty much only in those areas. And then Proteides mercurius, I got pictures of these 2, I'll show you them. That's a large skipper, and the subspecies Pedro's Puerto Rican. And then little satyr, only 1 species in Puerto Rico, that's it. Callisto nubila, a very pretty little thing, little guy, little black and brown thing. Interestingly, that Callisto in Hispaniola, which is next door, has 38 species of Callistos, all endemic to Hispaniola. And there's only 1 in Puerto Rico. It's really bizarre how one island, Hispaniola, can have 38 species. I think it's 30, it might be more. And they're very varied. It's amazing. So for some reason, that genus just took off in Hispaniola, but not anywhere else. Okay, here's some butterflies. Yay! Here's stuff that I collected from 68 to 73. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. And I'll show you some close-ups as we go along. Mobility, he was coming with some people that helped him. I understood he was going to have somebody wheeling the system, but okay. All right, well, that's good of Phil. So I lived in on a mountain called Cerro de las Mesas when I was a kid. I was between the ages of 9 and 14 when I collected these, and there's more. And this drawer, this box here represents quite a few of the species that are found in Puerto Rico. This is near Mayagüez. In fact, we were above looking down at Mayagüez from where we lived. And it was beautiful forests and things back then. It wasn't terribly developed, so there were a lot of butterflies around. Okay, here's some more. I collected these later on subsequent trips. Remember I said the little Urema that is endemic to Puerto Rico? There it is up in the corner here. Let me move this bar out of the way. So these little yellow Uremas, that's the Puerto Rican endemic. And these down below in this tray is the little purple wings, but there are 2 kinds. They're the Unica, typical purple wings that you might find in Florida, these guys. And then there's this one called Monima, Unica monima, and they're rare in Puerto Rico. But the year I was there was an outbreak, and there were lots of them in Guanica Forest. So I was able to collect some. Okay, so here's the Troglodyta and Neotroglodyta, these 3 guys right here. And as we go down the list, we have, whoops, come back. Here are the swallowtails, Androgeus. Now the males are bright yellow, but look at the female. Do you see them here in the middle? Look at the cursor. These 3 are females. This one's upside down, but these are a huge difference between the male and the female. And they feed on citrus. And so if you have orange groves or something that you might be able to find, these are still around, not so many, but they're there. But very interesting that the female is so different than the males. So we have the Batis polydamas. Whoa, come back here. Batis polydamas is found all across the Caribbean and into Florida even. But this is Thyamis. This subspecies is from Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And this guy, the Papilio demolaeus, is a Pacific species that has been introduced. It came from Indonesia and Southeast Asia. This is a pest. of citrus. In fact, they spray for them because they're problematic. Unfortunately, they spread like wildfire. These guys, this Demolaeus is all over the Caribbean at this point and in Puerto Rico. It's been there for some years now. And what I am very concerned about is that they will usurp the local species, which are rare. And this may in fact happen. And as other islands like Jamaica has swallowtails that are very rare, and they all feed on citrus, or many of them do. So if this thing continues on its path, people will be spraying to kill the Demolaeus, but they're going to kill the endemic guys, is what I'm afraid of. Okay, here is the Adelpha with the tails I was telling you about. Think about this, the Adelpha in Central and South America look very similar, but no tails. Wings are rounder, the variations of what you see here, but this little thing is just in Puerto Rico. And on the right-hand side is the prickly ash swallowtail, the Papilio palaus portoricensis. That's a beauty. They're still probably in some of the preserves there in the forest, and beneath them is they've renamed these. They put Heraclides now as the genus, but I'm old school. I still go with Papilio because to me they're Papilio, right, everyone? Right. So this is Aristodemus. In Florida, we have Aristodemus pontianus, the Shaw swallowtail, which is highly protected in the Keys. And thanks to the efforts of Tom Emmel, it was saved from complete extinction when the hurricane blew through. They had the last known specimens, they reared them, and they were able to reintroduce them successfully. So that was many years ago. And now there's a small population that's hanging on in the Keys. Different subspecies, though. That one is Pontianus. These are Aristodemus, the nominate race. And then here we have Hamadryas amphiclo, the only Hamadryas that's found in the Caribbean. In Central and South America, there's many other species of Hamadryas. And on the right-hand side, the blue one, that's a beauty, Propona demophoon insulicola, subspecies from the Antilles and Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. A gorgeous, and they're very fast flyers. You catch them if you bait them with rotten fruit. Now we have some Pierids here. Some of the weirdo ones, Dysmorphia spio. Very pretty, little pointed wings like that. It's hard to believe that they're related to the yellow and white ones that you see in the same picture. But they're all Pierids. And except on the left there, far left, and the zebras below, those are heliconids. And there's a moth. The black and white checkered thing at the corner is a moth. But the others are Pierids in this container. And the polymorphic ones can be yellow-green or orange. They're very pretty. You always find these, and they're relatively common in humid forest. So this is something you'd find in the rainforest, probably. And the zebras, you'd find them in the rainforest as well. Now, in the middle there, those big white ones are Glutophrisia punctifera, which is a rare species in Puerto Rico. I happened to find these on a trip in 2013, and they were a fair number around, so it was just maybe one of those lucky years. Okay, here's some now on the right-hand side, very rare. I had not collected these in Puerto Rico. These are mine from collecting in Hispaniola in the Dominican Republic when I was there. Like Corea Halia Cleobea has been found reportedly in Puerto Rico. It is believed, though, that it is a visitor, just an occasional visitor, not endemic or not established, I should say. Beneath that, Asteracampa edija, another weirdo one. It's related to our Asteracampas that we have here. We have Celtis and we have the other species. I'm trying to think of the name, Tawny Emperor. But this is a different one, and these came from the Dominican Republic. On the left is the great white, the Ganyera josephina krugii, and that's a endemic subspecies. And above that, Antios marilla, the yellow one. The other Antios is a white one. The white one there is found in the Dominican Republic and Cuba and other places. Marilla is widespread all the way through Central and even into South America. It's a beauty. When you see those flying around, it's like this big neon yellow ball flying past you. They're amazing. Okay, here is that little satyr I mentioned, Callisto nubula. They have males on the left, females on the right, and they're turned upside down at the bottom of the tray so you can see the underside. Typical of a satyr, you know, with the eye spots and whatnot. Little guys fly low to the ground, grassy areas, humid forests, you find these all the time. Really, they're found all over the whole island. It's an endemic, but it's also a very common species in Puerto Rico. So there you have it. And the showboat of them all, Atlantia tulita. This one, I'm not even sure if it's still in Puerto Rico because the last hurricane that scoured the island, I mean, scoured the heck out of the island. There's one place left in Puerto Rico where you can find these. It's a little town called Quebradillas near Arecibo, where the big radio telescope was. That little town, for some reason, the biome was perfect, and there was a lot of these butterflies there. And so they actually made it a little tourist spot for people to come and see them because it was like the big claim to fame for this little town. And it surprised me that that would be the case, but I have not been over there recently to see what the status is on this butterfly, not to Quebradillas. So I'd like to go there. Now, these specimens came from the serpentine forest called Sosua State Park years ago, or the Sosua Forest, I should say, the dry forest. So serpentine forest had the same host plants like they have in Quebradillas, and this is long before Quebradillas became even known. I collected these in 1972. I was what? How old was I? 12? 12, 13. Okay. And there was a lot of them there. Well, I hate to say it, they are no more in Sosua Forest. They've disappeared from there. And I know the host plants are still there. And I know the host plants are also in the Guanica dry forest, but the butterfly is not there. So Quebradilla seemed to be the only place left. And I need to go back one day and corroborate this and see. But here are the specimens from 1972. They look like a kid collected them in 1972, right? They're still good. Like Neil Young said, it's old, but it's good, right? All right. And skippers on the right and left, and on the bottom, Strymon acis, known as Bartram's hair streak. That's found all the way across the Caribbean into Florida, the little hair streak. It's a pretty thing. These came from the grounds near the Cabo Rojo Lighthouse. Walking up to the lighthouse, up the slope, there was shrubbery everywhere. And these guys had a big thriving colony going on in that shrubbery. Now, in addition to the skippers, as I mentioned, there are two endemic species. The one of those on the left top, very top, the little brown and golden looking skipper that you see at the very top, that one is Caranthes borinqua. And I'm sorry, that's Caranthes vitellus. And then on the right-hand side, the little orange golden one on the right, in the middle almost, that one is the Caranthes borinqua. So we have some interesting ones. And then the big ones are the Protetes mercurius. Those are also an endemic subspecies. Whoa. Endemic subspecies, the big ones there. So these I collected in 1970, and they kind of look like it, you know. So, all right. The ones on the left are from recent trips. The Euphrates, Arcas, and all these other guys, all of those are recent. And again, just to show you now, we're going to Vega Baja. Where's Vega Baja? Vega Baja is right here where my cursor is. Can you guys see that? This is the place follow that 22, that Highway 22 come in right about here, and that is where the greenhouse is located. So the countryside looks like this. You have rolling hills and greenery. It's very pretty up there. It's humid forests. And then we get to the greenhouse, and it's in a little park. It's a nice local recreation area. And there's a rearing facility and a greenhouse. This is you're looking toward the greenhouse. And here is the inside of the greenhouse. And they stock it with all kinds of plants. And here's my host and the caretaker of this place, Omar Sanchez, very nice gentleman. He showed me around kindly. If you look behind him, you see the shelves with the containers. So this is what he's doing. He is growing these caterpillars on milkweed. And the milkweed is not the one we know here. I'll show you the plant in just a second. But here's different stages. So he's got his caterpillars feeding here. And then on this side, here's where they're starting to hang and beginning to do their metamorphosis, right? And they call them the Jays, Jay caterpillars, when they start hanging like that and twisting over. Here's the name of the plant. It's Calotropis procera. Basically, it's a big milkweed. The leaves look like cabbage leaves almost, not quite as big as cabbage leaves, but you can see them in the container. You get the idea. They're pretty big, thick, meaty leaves. And the flowers look much like our milkweed that we see here, the same kind of cluster of pink flowers. Not as big of a cluster, but they're similar. So Calotropis procera, and here are the chrysalids when they are pupated. This is, of course, everybody knows monarch chrysalids look like that if you've seen them. And here are the adults as they come out. Now, I should tell you that these are not regular monarchs. These are non-migratory monarchs. These are the Puerto Rican monarch, Danaus plexippus portoricensis. By the way, the subspecific name portoricensis comes up actually like 4 or 5 times in the taxonomy. I was surprised to see that, but it did. Anyway, so this guy is an endemic subspecies of the regular monarch, and they're a little smaller than a regular monarch. So the portoricensis subspecies. Now we have the greenhouse, and here's Omar. We went inside, and the monarchs are flying everywhere. You can't see them in the picture, but there's a lot of them in there, and they're flying about. And both sides, you look one way or the other, you'll see plenty of monarchs. And it's painted up nice and pretty like this because tourists that come here are folks that don't know much about entomology or insects at all. They're coming there because there's a park next to this greenhouse where they're coming to have a picnic. And so they come in and they look around and they enjoy. So they make it amenable to all levels of understanding, if you will. All right, so inside he's got a bunch of different plants, all kinds of bromeliads and other native plants. And here are the monarchs flying around on these little flowers. They're very pretty. If you look close, we have an alternate host plant, Asclepias carasavica. And if you look at the bottom of the leaf just below his thumb, you can see some eggs there. The monarchs use this as well. So we got a picture with some eggs on this plant. 2 host plants. Asclepias is the genus that we have here in the States, by the way. All right, again, looking inside the greenhouse in both directions, we see all sorts of neat plants and flowers. It's a pretty place. There's a screen over the top to kind of shade things a little because it gets very hot otherwise. But it's open air. There's no windows. It's just screen. And there are predators. That is a lizard. See him? And what's the lizard doing? Eating monarchs, right? Well, the lizard didn't know that. Nobody told him. But you know what? Sometimes they taste bad. It's not that they're poisonous, so much. They just taste kind of sour and kind of nasty because they have alkaloids. What do they eat? They eat milkweed, right? Right? And milkweed has all that white gum in it, which has chemicals called alkaloids. And that's what makes them taste bad. The alkaloids, right? So guess what? It didn't seem to matter to the lizard because they can tolerate that a little bit. So the lizards snatched some of the monarchs and had lunch. And that's one thing is you can't keep the lizards out. No way. So they lose a few. All right. This is the grounds outside of the greenhouse. And it's landscaped with all sorts of native trees and plants and non-native stuff as well. People come here to those little pavilions and they have picnics. And if down below the trees there, down in there is a creek that runs down below. So people will picnic all day up here and then on the pretty grounds and then go down to the river and go swimming. I'll show you. In the foreground, you see the tree with those big round, they look like grapefruits on the tree, but those are gourds. It's called a gourd tree. And they use these, by the way, and they make maracas with these. That's what they do. They dry them out and the seeds are inside, so they rattle. Gourd tree. Okay, if you noticed in the distance in this picture, if you folks can see the round thing in the center of the image, that round disc on the ground, it's a little slab. Behind it, it looks like there's a hedge of greenery directly behind it, right? You see what I'm talking about? Yes. So this is the some host plants. They've planted these around, and we have passifloras that bring in the zebra butterflies and the Gulf fritillaries, all whole bunch of that. And then this other leguminosa, this plant there on the right-hand side that brings in some of the little nymphalids that will feed on that. So they have other butterflies that come to visit. Bromeliad colonies, it's very pretty in here. They keep it nicely cleaned up and landscaped, and it's a nice little regional park. And then we have the more bromeliads, different kinds right here. These are actually inflorescence, these dry broom things here. These are the flowers of this particular bromeliad. And there's the creek. So if you're hot and sweaty, there's a trail that'll take you down. And this is what a typical wet forest looks like in Puerto Rico. It's very lush, all kinds of plants growing in here, all kinds of stuff. If you're into botany, this is a good place to be. So you come down to the creek and people will go swimming in here. It's a very fun place to come and visit. Folks in Puerto Rico really enjoy, and I find this to be the case in Central America and South America. They love swimming in the rivers. And why not? They're nice and cooling off and all that. Long as they're not too polluted, right? So, but this place is a recreation area, so they can do this thing, they can go have a picnic, and they can see the butterflies. And the good thing is that Omar does a great job educating children. I watched him in action when a family came with the kids, and he had the kids playing with the caterpillars, looking at, holding the butterflies, and they were immersed in it. And that's all you can ask for, somebody to be able to. He does this as a volunteer, all volunteered. He takes care of the rearing. He takes care of the greenhouse, takes care of all the stuff as a volunteer, and shares all this time with people who come for the day to learn a little bit. And his efforts are going a long way because Puerto Rico is in need of conservation. There's a lot of things that, it's a small island, so land gets developed quickly and they lose their natural resources. So it's a good thing that he's there to help. So here's what the grounds look like again from the side of the greenhouse and the tree line. Off in the distance, the river's down below there, as I said. And are you ready to go? Let's do it. This is San Juan, the plane coming in for a landing, this is coming in for a landing, flies over this lagoon. It's a beautiful place. I'm very endeared to Puerto Rico. I hope you guys go to visit. You don't need a passport. Just jump on the plane. It's not expensive. And the food is great.